Well, hello, everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to our webinar, Exploring the Online MBA. We're going to talk about how to get into a program and also how to finance one. And we've got three terrific schools that offer great online MBA opportunities. Let me introduce our panelists today. Rebecca Lodes, who's Director of Career Accelerator Programs at ESMT Berlin, one of the newcomers to the online MBA market, and we'll get into that shortly. We have Michael Dixon, who's the Associate Director of Admissions at NC State for the Jenkins MBA, which has long had a very high quality, prominent, highly ranked online MBA experience. And we have Chris Healy, an old friend of ours, who's the head of MBA marketing and recruitment at Manchester Alliance. Welcome, everyone. So let's have each of you give us a little history about, tell us how long the program has been around, how long does it generally take to complete, the nuts and bolts of your offering in the online MBA space. Rebecca, let's begin with you in Berlin.
Thank you, John, and it's really lovely to be here. I guess that I've probably got the baby in the sense that our global online program was actually launched in September last year. However, it's probably the world's longest pregnancy because it's basically been in gestation and development for about 4 years. We are a modular program, so everyone comes in. Ideally, you can take between 2 to 5 years. So our idea is there that it's completely flexible so that if you need to take a pause, if you need to take a break, you can do so and then kind of pick up your studies where you left off. We have kind of your start and your end points. Those modules are the same, but your path between the modules in between is completely your own. And so this really is an opportunity for you to make certain that it fits around your family, around your work, around other commitments that you might have going on.
And you're also disruptively priced.
We are indeed, yes. So our pricing is for the full program, it's €26,500. So that is about $30,000 and about £22,000. And we also offer those that decide to pay up front. There is also a 15% discount. So therefore you can bring it down to, I think it's something like $22,000 or 22,500 euros. So really that does make a difference. And really we did that because we want to make our quality education accessible to all. So we've taken an alternative route, so no scholarships, same price to everybody, same low price to everyone, to hopefully really bring in the people to study and enjoy the high quality of the program.
What's your current enrollment? I know it's very new, so it can't be all that large.
Super new. So we actually launched with 47 students from 27 different countries. So this is really good. We have our pipeline, our next intake is in May, and that is looking really strong. So we definitely think that we have created something which has got a really strong USP and that students are seeing value in and are interested in kind of taking part.
Terrific. Tell us a little bit about the Manchester Online MBA.
Thank you very much, John. Yeah, sure. So I guess the Manchester Global MBA has been one of the longest running MBAs around. So we started this Global MBA back in 1992, and we were one of the pioneers, if you will, in transnational education, where we wanted to ensure that we could make education accessible to the same quality of standard as it is in the UK to other parts of the world. So in addition to having our MBA campus in Manchester, we also opened up in Singapore and Hong Kong back in the early 90s. The program's grown exponentially since then. We've also grown our bases where we've now got a campus in Dubai and Shanghai for our global MBA program. And in terms of how long it takes to complete, students, it can be completed in 2 years generally. There are some accelerated pathways for 18 months, but also you can take up to 5 years. About 78% of our students complete the program in 2 years. It has grown because we've been around for so long. It has grown to be one of the biggest professional MBA programs around, where we would have 2 intakes, a January and July intake, and we would recruit in total between 600 to 700 students between both those intakes.
So your current enrollment is what?
So we're about for 2021, it was about 670-ish. And then we've just completed our January 2022 intake, where we recruited about 378 students.
Right. So you're right around the 1,000 mark, I guess, right?
So well, yeah, I guess it depends how you split it up. So we could be at any one stage with about 2,000 students. I guess we look at it more in calendar years. How many students did you recruit in 2021?
Sure, I see. Right. So your current enrollment is about 2,000 overall because of the time that it takes to complete the degree, of course.
That's right.
And you mentioned the number of different campuses, and it makes me think that your program is a little bit more blended, that there may be some in-residence sections of it. Is that true or not?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, of course, if you go back to 1992, the internet wasn't even invented. So it was done by an element of correspondence back then, but also what we've done at Manchester is we look at it as we've got one MBA program. So whether you do the full-time MBA with us or our global MBA, the qualification is exactly the same. So in order to meet that same quality standard, so we've always had face-to-face elements involved. But of course, it's getting that balance, isn't it, John? You know, you think about some of the world's best executive MBA programs where you might need to come on campus, 80, 90, even up to 100 days on some of them. So we needed to find the right balance. So it's about 30 days in total, and that's split over 3 times per year for about between 4 to 6 days each session.
Right. Great. Michael, obviously, you know, the NC State Online MBA offering has been around for some time as well. It's consistently highly ranked. Today, U.S. News in America came out with the latest ranking. Just on the side, what do you make of rankings of online programs? Of course, in Europe, the Financial Times is the big player, and in the United States, it's U.S. News. What's your take on these lists?
Well, I think these lists, I mean, it really depends on, of course, the source and how each of these sources is ranking the schools. But we are very excited to be, you know, ranked more and more and being more recognized across the country and on an international scale for our online program. And we have been around, as you said, for a while now. We've been around since 2011. And our program is very flexible for working professionals. You can finish in as soon as 21 months or as late as 6 years. It's a total of 40 credit hours. So it really does give professionals the opportunity to jump in and really customize and tailor their own schedule to really fit within their personal lives and within their work lives as well. So generally, I would say people would take about maybe 2.5 to 3 years or so to complete the program on average. And I know blending was mentioned, I think, in Chris's situation at Manchester, and we kind of do that as well for those who are in the area. So if you wanted to come in and take courses in person, then you're more than welcome to do that. We do have evening classes that you can take, and you can take online classes as well if you want to do a little bit of blending action there. But otherwise, the online program is, I would say, about 85 to 90% asynchronous, and it really does give you the chance to go through the courses kind of in your own time and when it works best with your schedule. And then for the rest of that time, that would be collaborating with your classmates and working with your professors, really kind of depending on, when the group's availability may be, which will look different for, I would say, every person. So that is the NC State program.
And your current enrollment in the online MBA is what?
So we bring in about 70 in the fall, and then we bring in anywhere between 15 and 25 in the spring. So we do have a smaller cohort comparatively when looking at the online program.
Right. Great. And give us a sense of the latest class profile. Who is taking these courses? What kind of experience do they have? Do they bring to the program? And what do you tend to look for, Michael?
So for the online program, we do hope that professionals who are working full-time will be our kind of main demographic coming into the program. Normally, I would say our students have anywhere between 7 to 10 years or so of work experience in total. I mean, that range does look a lot wider than that. It really depends on, the quality of the work experience that's being brought to the table. I would say looking at male, female, it has been about 50-50 for the most part. So we try to do a really good job of really balancing male and female populations in our program. We have had certain semesters where we actually have more females in our program. So that is interesting in looking at us versus other MBA programs out there. Looking at where our students are coming from in their undergraduate experience, I'd say about 24% are coming from NC State, 29% coming from any of the UNC schools around us, 40% or so around anywhere in the US outside of North Carolina. And we have about 6% of students who are currently working on international visas. And I would say looking at underrepresented populations, we have about 35% of students. Again, 6% coming from an international background and about 15% are military.
All right, well, that's a pretty thorough, detailed accounting of your class. Rebecca, you mentioned earlier in the conversation that your first cohort is representative of 27 different countries. What other details can you spare about the first class?
So first off, 27 different citizens, and actually they're national, or they're living in 23 different countries. So what's really interesting is actually to see that while, those living in Germany are probably the largest country living share, what's nice is that we don't have one nationality that's dominating. I'm envious of Michael's kind of like the female percentage there, which is fantastic. We have about 1/3 of women and 2/3 men. What I think is really phenomenal is that these are a super educated bunch. We've got kind of 1/3 of them have already got a master's degree. We've had some PhDs in the class as well. And so what's really fascinating to us is the kind of the profile of the person who is looking at studying for their MBA program online. And we are a fully online. We have a couple of optional in-person modules, but apart from that, you can stay at your home, at your work. You don't have to come to Berlin, even though I would recommend it. And so therefore, I think that may help in terms of our footprint, because there isn't that requirement to come to Berlin. This year, what has been really exciting is that we are working with Allianz Africa in the most recent intake. And so they have sponsored social entrepreneurs to come into the program. So this is a real opportunity where we have these fascinating people who have built up their own NGOs, who have built up their own social impact projects, their own social ventures, while typically balancing a full-time job as well, and who are now also kind of studying on the global online program, which means that it's really rich and diverse. So you've got such a plethora of backgrounds and experience and sectors that are represented. But if I look kind of typical ones, our top 3 are like consulting, technology, and then we have a lot of manufacturing, which is interesting because we don't necessarily get that representation in our other MBA programs.
And the average age of entering student would be what?
It's 31 actually, if they've got 9 years of work experience. So we do have a part-time MBA program, which is an 80-20, 80% online, 20% in person. So more of a blended offer. And actually our global online profile and our part-time MBA profile, they're really similar.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting for everyone out there that, typically people with that level of experience would have gone into an executive MBA program or an evening part-time program. And the explosion in online MBA degrees has given them another alternative. And obviously the big advantage here is the flexibility. You don't have to quit your job. You can continue to earn a paycheck. And more importantly, you don't have to do the evening slog. I will call it a slog because I can't imagine going to school 2 nights a week after work for several years to get my MBA degree. I know that has been historically the most popular way that people get an MBA degree, but boy, that's a real grind. And the beauty of an online MBA is you don't have to do that anymore. And also, I think business has changed dramatically in the last quarter of a century. Many people have very big demands on them for travel. And if you're a road warrior in business, you can still do your online MBA degree and do it fairly easily from any place. So
exactly. I think if you factor in the commuting time in terms of kind of like dedicating that to study, the one thing I will say is that, I mean, and I'm sure that, Chris and Michael will be exactly the same. Our programs may be offered in a slightly different format, but they are definitely academically rigorous. And our expectations are that students are putting on average about 15 hours of work in a week. So this is by no means a trivial undertaking. We for ESMT, an MBA is an MBA. You have access to the same world-class faculty. We are expecting the same level of work from you. There is, you're just studying in a slightly different modality.
Yep, absolutely true. Chris, give us a sense of your latest class profile. Who's coming into the program? Who's it best suited for?
Yeah, so the average age of students in our global MBAs is 36. So again, very much what you would traditionally class as an executive MBA profile. But I think what's interesting and what I'm seeing a lot of over the last couple of years, and it's testament to what Rebecca and Michael said about their class profiles actually, and I think it's going to fall in a similar way at Manchester, is I'm now seeing younger candidates that I traditionally 10 years ago, if I'd have seen a copy of their CV, I would have gone, or resume should I say, I would have gone, they're looking at a full-time MBA. Of course they are, but that's no longer always the case. So often now you've got these individuals who may only have 5, 6, 7 years of experience, who are thinking, do you know what, I'm in a job or I'm in an industry or a company that I really like. I can see progress, but I also understand the importance of going back to school and gaining my MBA qualification. So although our average age is 36, I really do expect that to start falling over the next couple of years. In terms of additional stuff about what our class looks like, when we take all of our students from every intake, who are, whether they joined 18 months ago, where they joined 18 days ago, we pre-COVID would have students from between 90 to 100 countries on the program. That has dropped. That has dropped recently. So if we look at the current class, you've got students from about 60 countries enrolled.
Wow, that's great.
And then in terms of industries, I think one of the things that I think a lot of schools do very well is they still say the MBA is a general management qualification, as it was when Harvard first brought it out. Of course, I know a lot of schools try to carve out niches, etc. But I think one of the benefits of when you do have a genuinely general management MBA is you do recruit students from all industries. Rebecca mentioned there about manufacturing. manufacturing is often our number one industry in terms of where we recruit many of our MBAs from, sorry, our global MBAs. Another thing that I find interesting is 10 years ago, very rarely would you find someone, let's say, with a legal background or a clinical background coming onto an MBA. You're seeing that more and more now. Why? Because those industries are needing to be maybe more commercially agile, perhaps. So it really is a very wide demographic in terms of industries, in terms of countries where students come from.
Yeah, that's great. Now, Chris, talk us through the admission cycle. How does the admissions for the online MBA differ, and how does it work?
Yeah, I think one of the ways it differs is because of the profile of the students. You need to have, and you'll often hear me use the word balance with a number of things. And I think the admissions process, when you're dealing with often people who are senior professionals in senior roles, I think you can't make it an application process that's going to take months and months. These people want to, of course, they want to apply for a very rigorous program at a rigorous business school, but they also want an answer fairly quickly. And that mindset is different to our applicant base on, let's say, our full-time MBA. So one of the things that we have done is we've tried to simplify the admissions process in terms of time. Things, for example, on our full-time MBA, you're going to need to do the GMAT. Why? Because the students on our full-time MBA are generally less experienced, they're younger. And here we thought, well, actually, could we allow people to come on to the Manchester Global MBA without a GMAT? And we thought, so what we did is we developed our own in-house admissions test, which now has been taken by over 10,000 global professionals over the past few years.
How long does that test take?
So that test takes 60 minutes to complete. So although we call it the MAT test, Manchester Admissions Test, I do always stress to people it is not comparable to the GMAT test. My standard line to someone looking at a GMAT is 3 months to prepare. Is the advice I tend to give. On the Manchester
3 hours long.
Yeah. On the Manchester Admissions Test, it's not something you necessarily have to revise for. I always recommend people, take 30 minutes of practice questions by all means, but you don't need to be spending hours and hours in terms of preparation. And that's just one example of how working professionals can save time when it comes to things such as the application process, the admissions process.
Right. Yeah. Good point. And you mentioned earlier you have 2 intakes.
Yeah.
Yep. And those intakes.
Yeah, so sorry, John. Yeah, we have the January and July intakes on our global program.
So the deadline for the July would be what? What do your deadlines look like?
So the deadlines usually for the July intake tend to be the end of May, and then for the January intake they tend to be the end of November. Great.
So plenty of time to apply for July.
Absolutely.
January, you missed the boat.
You'll be surprised how many calls, how many emails we get. Even still now, can we still join the January intake? No.
Oh, that's funny. Now, Michael, what about your process for admissions?
Well, we very similarly to Chris at Manchester, we try to, of course, make it as seamless as possible for our working professionals. So we have actually taken away the requirement of the GMAT and GRE for our professional programs. So that should save tons of time for our students now. So basically we have 2 application deadlines. We have our April 1st deadline coming up, which will start in fall of 2022. And then for those who are looking at coming in spring of 23, that deadline is normally at the beginning of September. We have not posted that exact date yet at this point, but you can plan on that being sometime around September 1st. And up until our deadlines, we do have a rolling admissions process. So you can really apply, at any point in time. We always recommend to apply a little bit earlier in the process if possible, because we are filling up the class pretty much every single day as we go through the cycle. So we do recommend to apply early. And what will happen is it's generally a 2 to 4 week turnaround time to where we will let you know whether or not you've been selected for an interview. Our interviews are by invitation only, so you will find that out within 2 to 4 weeks. And then after you've interviewed, we will let you know our final decision about 1 to 3 weeks or so after that process. So that's what the admission cycle looks like for the Jenkins MBA.
And I should point out, since both you and Chris have mentioned that you do not require GMAT or GRE, that the vast majority of online MBA programs do not require a standardized test. And the few that waive the test, waive them for large numbers of people. And I think in recognition of that, for the first time ever, US News, in the latest ranking that came out today of US programs at least, did away with weighting of standardized test scores for the first time. Now, Rebecca, what's your admissions process like?
To be honest, I think it's, very similar. So we also have rolling admissions. So we kind of look at your application as soon as we receive it. We then make a kind of like, is it complete? Are you the kind of person we want in the program? And then we invite you to interview. And our admissions team, I must admit, they are full kudos to them because they turn things around really quickly. So for example, we have our next intake will start on the 5th of May and our deadline is about 2 weeks before. So effectively you've got until the end of April, 24th of April to get your application in to start in May. We waive admission tests. However, we do reserve the right to ask for them because if someone is coming from a non-quantitative background and is also working in a non-quantitative field, then actually because of the mathematical component and the quant component, we would like some confidence that you're going to succeed because we don't want you to come into the program and fail. So therefore we also have our own test, the business school admissions test. And so we typically ask a student to take that. But we do in a lot of cases, given that the profile of our applicants are typically kind of like their undergrad is, we have, I think more than 50% are coming with an engineering degree. So for those candidates, we will waive the standardized test requirement because they've got a demonstrated quantitative background. We do ask for essays. We do. So yes, we still ask for recommendations. So there is rigor that goes through in the application process. This isn't a case of you kind of submit the thing and then you're automatically in. There is a selection process, and then often within typically kind of like 2-3 weeks of receiving your application, you will know if you have the place on the program or not.
Right. What helps a candidate stand out in that process, Rebecca?
I think we need to kind of think about the goal of the admissions process is so that we can get to know you and you can get to know us. So yes, we are looking for kind of, okay, let me have a look at your career development. Show me what you're going to bring to the class, because an MBA program, yes, you're learning from faculty, but you're also learning from each other. So show to me that I'll share our values, the community, curiosity, courage, and rigor, that you were invested in your learning journey and you also want to help other people in their learning journey as well, and that you're ready to kind of to work with each other, that obviously you're open-minded, that you're ready to kind of be sat there with students, with other candidates or other students from around the world, and you're prepared to kind of to learn with and through them. And also, I guess the kind of like the main tip is like, be yourself. Don't tell us what you think we want to hear. Just be yourself, because that gives us a much better picture of you. It also means that kind of like both parties are operating with the right amount of information. And I guess the other thing is like, when you come to interview, please ask questions that are not in the brochure. So just have thought of a couple that you couldn't possibly have got from the brochure or
Do
from our
your
website.
research, right?
Do
You got
your
to do your
research.
research.
Yes, yeah.
If
And
you come
that's
in
kind of
there
like,
not
that's
having
really
even read the
appreciated.
website, forget it.
Exactly. Yes.
That's really good advice. So obviously, progress in one's career, what you can share with your classmates to enhance the learning experience overall are two important elements. And of course, can you handle the quant work? And the quant work in most MBA programs isn't all that, formidable, but it is significant, particularly in some of the finance, statistical, and accounting courses. And you should be able to handle that without too much difficulty, because the last thing the school wants to do is to admit someone who's going to flunk out. So that's why you need that reassurance. Michael, what are some of the other things that you're looking for in a compelling candidate?
One of the really big things that we're looking for is this candidate someone who's really taken the time to think about, short term, what are your goals? Long term, what are your goals? I think with NC State, our motto is think and do. So we want you to be able to, go through the program and get a great experience in the classes, and then come out and to be able to, really put that into practice and to find the job that really makes the most sense for you and also makes you really excited. So we really want to see that you've taken the time to see how you fit in our program and how we can help you with that position post MBA. With our students in the online program, since many of them are already working, a lot of them really want to take that next step. They want that promotion, or maybe they want to work up to that next salary bracket. And we have a really great career management team who is there to really give you that one-on-one attention and kind of help guide you throughout that process and help you to make that next step. But first, we really need to know what you would like to accomplish. And so I think that's my biggest advice for today, is really make sure that you define those short-term and long-term goals.
Right. Chris, similar advice from you for applicants?
Yeah, absolutely. There's not much else I can add to that. I think there's one little nugget, perhaps. We've spoken about career progression, etc. But then if we take some of these maybe younger applicants now who may not have the wealth of experiences as many of our other applicants, then it comes down to why the MBA. What we see now a lot of is talent retention is a big thing across all industries. So what you'll find, and it's not always financial, it could be that a company is backing someone in the sense of time. Often a company might back them in terms of finance as well. So if you've got an organization there that's completely behind someone to do an MBA, things like that can also help. And that's, I guess, is in addition to everything that Rebecca and Michael have already spoken about.
Right, that's great. So obviously an MBA is a big investment, not only in terms of your commitment in time. As Rebecca noted, students need to spend at least 15 hours a week, in some cases 20 hours a week, on these part-time programs online. But it's also a big investment in terms of your finances. And obviously another key advantage here is, as I mentioned before, you don't quit your job, and therefore you still have a steady stream of income coming in, unlike a full-time MBA program where you have to leave your place of employment. But how should people think about the ROI on an online MBA degree? Chris, you have thoughts on that?
Yeah. So in terms of ROI on professional MBA programs, often it's very different to those who join full-time MBAs, who are often looking to, switch industry, switch locations. What you tend to find on professional MBA programs is that people are joining for progression, often within that industry, Of course, many students across all three of our programs and across all other MBA programs will also switch industries. But as a general point, the majority tend to stay in that industry. Not always with the same company, of course. Often that will come down to, has your current company supported you financially or in terms of time? If they haven't, maybe they're more likely to go to a competitor organization, etc. So I think that's one of the ways that students look at that ROI. What positions are they doing a few years after they graduate? But of course, going back to your point there, John, that you made a couple of minutes ago, because you're still working, and you'll find this across a range of professional MBAs, is you can gain promotion whilst on the program. It doesn't have to be after you graduate. You're not putting that learning into practice after graduation. You're putting that learning into practice as you're studying, as you're continuing to work. So that can also happen.
Yeah, in fact, that's a big benefit that we should have mentioned earlier. Obviously, if you're working and studying at the same time, you can literally apply what you learn immediately on the job and impress your superiors. And that's a big important part of the job. And that's also why so many people in these online MBA programs do gain promotions while in the program. The majority of them, in fact, do. And many of them experience substantial increases in pay at the current employer as they become more valuable to their companies. Now, Michael, do you have any thoughts about the ROI and how that works for people? It's typically thought, and this is changing a little bit too. Chris, you mentioned, one change that you're seeing is younger people coming into the degree. It used to be that an online MBA or an evening MBA were largely meant for people who wanted to accelerate their careers where they already were. That it was not necessarily the experience for a career switcher. But more people are entering online MBA programs with the hope of switching their careers. Are you seeing that, Michael?
Well, I think it really across the board is changing a little bit in that way, where people are seeming to be overall more open to taking on positions at other companies, sometimes in other industries, rather than not being open to that. So that is something I think that we've really noticed, is just an openness to try new things. And I would recommend, when looking at the return on investment, really make sure that you do your research and make sure that you talk to your coworkers, talk to your supervisor, have open conversations with them and ask them, where are you going? What are your goals within the company? And that, I think, will kind of help you in looking at your salary potential as you're going through the program, and then after you've graduated as well. And you can really compare that to average salaries of our students coming out of the program, and even looking at, where you are now and saying, hey, is this worth the investment? And, is this something that I will be able to really make up for later down the line? So I would say the more research you do, the more talking to, people in your company or people who are in maybe positions that you may be interested in taking down the line would be a really great place to start thinking in that way.
Right. Rebecca, your thoughts on ROI?
I think it's a really interesting question. So obviously we don't have kind of like, our program is only 5 months old. So therefore I can't roll out a whole load of statistics on what our students are doing. However, I kind of would like to think about what ROI actually means. So first of all, if you're kind of like an ROI, typically you're investing in another business and you don't have real control over what they're doing because you're just kind of handing over the money. When you're investing in yourself, you're kind of like, you're putting your money in and you're investing, but you're also putting your own effort and time in. So I think that what you will bring to it also will determine what you get out from it. So that's being kind of like fully engaged. And I also think that while there is a financial return, so there is, the external measures of your success or your continuity, I think there is also a personal return. So you will see yourself, to your point, you're applying it from work. You will see your colleagues change as you are bringing a new perspective. You will see attitudes towards you as what you're doing. You're thinking in a different way. You're bringing new knowledge into the business and you're applying it to what you do. So I thought, yes, you can do a straight financial equation, but I think that the return, that investing in yourself, undergoing this kind of transformational learning journey, I think is something that has ramifications for, in the short and the long term.
Yeah, no, I always say that the most generous gift you can give yourself is a gift of a friend. Yeah. And then the second most generous gift you can give yourself is the gift of higher education. And it's not about the dollars and cents. It's about having a more thoughtful, deeper understanding of what you're doing, feeling more passionate and inspired about it, having greater impact and self-confidence that comes from all that. And that is absolutely essential. And you can't put that on the balance sheet or an income statement. So that's really important. Now, we did mention that obviously it's an expense. I think another benefit, frankly, of online MBAs is that many companies may have a scholarship benefit, and it may have a limit. And so in an online MBA program where you have the option of extending the time of learning beyond a certain period, you may be able to take full advantage of a company's generosity in funding the program. But above and beyond that, I wonder if your school offers any kind of merit-based scholarships or fellowships on the basis of need, or is the price tag, and that's what you can expect to pay? Rebecca?
The price tag is the price tag. The only potential scholarship you could get is an early application scholarship. So in effect, kind of get your application in for the September intake, where opening applications will start looking on the 8th of May. And so then you will qualify for that. But otherwise, no. We do offer, though, it's not a scholarship, but we also offer different ways that you can pay for your program. So this isn't a case of you're having to find your tuition fees up front. We also offer a modular payment. So you pay by module, which means that you can spread your investment out and match it to the pace at which you're consuming and going through the program. And that also is something which we found that employers can make them more ready to reimburse you because they will see the results as you're going along. And that's something, I think that employer role is fascinating because very much as Chris said, I'm sure Michael sees the same, employers seem to be way more ready to invest in an online program than we have seen in other program formats.
Yeah, good point. Chris, how about scholarships over at Manchester?
A bit like what Rebecca said, the price is the price. But I think one of the reasons that we've done that is also we've been able to keep our price historically at a fairly low level or accessible level. Especially if you compare it to some North American schools. You look at, say, UNC's online MBA, fantastic program. I think it's about $120,000. The Manchester MBA, we've been able to keep the price. It's about $42,000, just a touch under $42,000, £31,000. And we're able to do that with face-to-face contact added in at no additional cost. But one of the reasons we're able to do that is because of the success of the program from its early days and the reputation the program has. So we do have almost an economies of scale coming into effect, and that's benefiting current students and future students as well. Because I often look. You touched on rankings earlier. Say the Manchester MBA ranked top 30 in the world on the Financial Times, top 10 in Europe, top 5 in the UK. And then when I look at, let's say, some US schools that will be around our area in that rankings. You're talking double, triple, sometimes even quadruple the price, because again, you've got that face-to-face. So we don't look at it that we're only looking for online MBA students. We're also looking for executive MBA students. So we're sitting right there in the middle. So fortunately, the price point, I think, is accessible. And like Rebecca said, in terms of how payments are made, we allow our students to pay the fees over a 2-year period. So it's not on a module basis; it's on a semesterly basis.
Right.
And there was one interesting stat that I dug up earlier on, which is completely different to our full-time program. Only 1% of our students would take out any loans to do our MBA program. And that's because, again, of the price, and that you're paying it over a 2-year period. Of course, if you had to find $42,000 straight away, I'm sure that number would be much higher. So I thought that was an interesting one to share.
That is very much so. And Michael, are there scholarships available at NC State?
Yes, we do actually offer one-time smaller scholarships for students on the basis of merit. And those have generally been in between $3,000 and $4,000 US dollars. So we like to say, at least that's something, because for a lot of the programs such as this, the sticker price is kind of what you pay. So we are excited that we can offer that. And very similarly to what Rebecca and Chris have mentioned, you would be paying on a semester basis. And the university, NC State, will actually work with you in creating a payment plan where you can actually pay for each semester over the course of 5 months, and really kind of take that amount that you're paying each month and break it down to the lowest number possible. And I would say probably 10 to 20% of our students will take out some sort of financial aid and loans and monies like that as well. So it definitely does happen.
All right. Well, we are out of time, but before we leave, I want each of you to share how students might be able to get in touch with you if they're interested in the program. Number one, go to the school's website, look up the program, learn as much as you can about it. Listen to this webinar again, because I think we conveyed a heck of a lot of great information for people. But also, Michael, if someone wants to get in touch with you, what should they do?
I would say email me or any of my colleagues in the admissions office. We are always happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Chris?
So I think by all means go on my LinkedIn profile, connect with me. Just add a little note to say that you've listened to this webinar and you'd like some more information. I'll drop you a message and we can maybe go on a Zoom call or something. So I'd be more than happy to do that.
Terrific. And Rebecca?
Same, find me on LinkedIn, email me rebecca.loads@esmt.org, or if you want, just have a look on our website. We have contact information there all over the place, and we really would like to talk to you and talk to you about the Global Online MBA. Fantastic.
Well, Rebecca, Chris, and Michael, it's been a real pleasure for me to spend the last 45 minutes with all of you. I hope all of you out there learned a lot more about what an online MBA degree can do for you, what's expected, how to get into a program, and also how to pay for it, and what the ROI implications of the degree and the experience might offer for you. So this is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Thanks for watching.